Right, so welcome everyone to those of us to those of you joining us now. Thank you. Thank you for joining us as the audience for this Gorilla Grants webinar. Lovely day. I think we have a nice afternoon here in London and everywhere where you're joining us in the world. Feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Joining us today, we have Joe Evershed, the CEO founder for Gorilla Experiment Builder. We also have Claire Renshaw and Holly Beale, who will be assisting with marketing links and that sort of thing. And Claire will also be presenting a section. And then we also have two Gorilla Grant winners, Federica and Yue. But I'll hand over to Joe to tell you a little bit more about Gorilla and kick off the webinar. So let's get started.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for the warm welcome. It's really nice to be back with you guys today. So for everybody joining us right now, could you please introduce yourselves in the chat? You go down to the bottom of the screen and you scroll along until you can see the chat button, and then you change the message from hosts and panelists to everyone, so you're messaging everyone, and you tell us probably who you are and where you're dialing in from. It's just really nice to know how far you've come from today, making time for us. So I might type something like, "Hi, I'm Joe from Galila, from Cambridge in the UK," like that. It's just really nice to know everybody who's in the room. Sort of need to fill a little bit of this time while everybody joins. You know, people are a little bit late, and then we will jump into the main bit of the webinar. Hey, hi Danielle.
Couple of people in the Q&A are saying the chat's disabled. Is that something you could fix, Danielle?
Sorry, that was an oversight on my part. That should be working now.
Okay.
So feel free to go to the chat, everyone. Sorry about
Try
that.
again now. Thank you
Yes.
for telling us. That was really helpful.
Yeah, thank you. And just make sure that you click the setting that says to everyone to everyone.
Yeah. Hi, Sally. Hi.
There we go.
Etikle from Bangalore. Hello, Frederica. Hi, Frederica. Hi, Pascal. Hi, Ethan. Now, the second thing I'd like you to do, which is much more fun and really useful for the speakers, is could you tell us what discipline you're from? So psychology or social science, and what it is that you research, maybe attention, I don't know, transmission of culture, whatever it is. So your discipline and what it is that you research. It just makes it so much easier for our speakers if they know who they're talking to. I know all of you have had experience giving a lecture. When you're talking to one audience, you just change your message slightly. You talk about it in a slightly different way. And the more we know about the audience here today, the better job we can do of talking about our research and sharing it with you. So this is really a gift from you to our speakers, telling us what you do. So I'm just scrolling down in the chat. Social psychology, integrative health and medicine. I'm in psychology, psychology of substance abuse, research language in a social context. So many: visual attention, visual search, organizational psychologist, psycholinguistics. Hello, Caesar. You do psycholinguistics as well. Nice to meet you. Anyway, thank you so much. Right, we're now up to nearly 85 participants, so I think it's probably time we got started. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. Just give me a moment to share my slides. So what I'm going to start off with is just giving you a short introduction. So this is the webinar on Gorilla Grants. I'm going to give you a short introduction to what is Gorilla, so that it's easier to receive the talks from our grant winners. So hopefully you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Claire, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see it?
I can see it, yep.
Fab, fantastic. So this is Gorilla. At Gorilla, we create powerful, easy to use tools for experimental psychology and related disciplines. So maybe psycholinguistics, neuroscience, speech and language therapy, behavioral economics, all sorts of related disciplines, anywhere where you want participants to go into a protocol. And what you're really interested in is the cognitive and behavioral data that comes out at the other end. So back in the day, I used to be an experimental psychologist, and I had to code all my tasks from scratch in MATLAB, which took weeks and was painful, because if I'd wanted to study computer science, I would have done computer science. That is not how I wanted to spend my time. And then I'd have to collect data face to face in the lab, and you'd be sat there in the lab getting told, reading a book, and a participant would turn up and then leave, and then another one would be booked to turn up and they wouldn't show. And collecting data took weeks and weeks and weeks. And next to me, some of my friends and fellow researchers were creating online surveys and putting them online. And they could create their own online surveys without writing a line of code. And they could get them on, put them online and collect data in a matter of hours. And I confess, deeply jealous because that looked like a nicer research experience. So what I decided to do with my time was to shift direction and instead create that for you. So where online surveys are really easy, but not really powerful, and coding is really powerful, but not very easy, I decided to create Gorilla, which is as powerful as coding in the lab, but as easy to use as an online survey tool, so that you guys can collect the data you need without spending all your time programming in MATLAB and sitting in the lab waiting for participants to show up. And to a large extent, we've succeeded. This is a typical type of case study that we get from researchers. Jade here, previously in MATLAB, it had taken her 8 weeks to create an adaptive stop signal delay task, and then she tested participants face-to-face in the lab, which had taken her 6 weeks to collect data from 50 participants. Once she'd switched to Gorilla, it took her 1 day to rebuild this complicated adaptive stop signal delay task, and then it took her just 1 day to collect data from 50 participants. She could have collected data from 500 participants in a day. Anything is possible. So this new way, once she switched to Gorilla, saved her 3 months in time and salary, which can be better spent on other things like, your write-up, your dissemination, maybe taking a holiday and having a better work-life balance. We know you PhD students work incredibly hard. So what is Gorilla? Our vision is to create a better world based on evidence, not opinion, and our mission is to create an all-in-one research platform for human data collection so that we have the data on what works. In a nutshell, participants go in and gorgeous cognitive and behavioral data comes out. Inside Gorilla, we have a survey tool, which has feature parity with something like Qualtrics, a task builder tool, which is sort of equivalent to something like ePrime or presentation, where you can have any type of stimulus and any response and you get reaction times. We then have this experiment tree, which allows you to link elements of your study together, so you can go from a questionnaire to a survey to a randomizer and then put people into different conditions. You can do within or between subject experiments with ease. And then we've got some advanced tools, which I'll tell you about a little bit after our talks as well. But we have a game builder for making fun reaction time tasks. I know it's not an oxymoron. We have a multiplayer tool for studying behavior in a social context. We have a shopping simulator for understanding purchasing behavior, in particular food purchasing behavior. And we have a UX UI tool for understanding how people navigate websites. And all of these will give you the data to understand their behavior. And with that, I'm now going to hand over to Claire to introduce our grant schemes. Over to you, Claire.
Perfect, thank you. I am just going to share my slides. And okay, does that all look right?
Yeah,
perfect.
See them.
All right, thank you, Joe. So yeah, I'm Claire. I'm the communications manager here at Gorilla, and I also lead our grants program. Very quick background on me is I got my degree in psychology from the University of Warwick in the UK, and then an MSc in applied psychology and economic behavior from the University of Bath. I then joined Gorilla in 2019, and I've had the opportunity to support loads of researchers over the last 5 years, and over the last year, specifically been able to support researchers through our grant scheme, giving people who may not otherwise have the funding to try online research the chance to do that. I know when you're used to lab research, it can feel like a big leap to move, maybe like remake some of your samples and move online. So we're making that leap easier by offering the chance to run fully funded and fully supported research studies online. We've run 3 grant schemes so far over the last year, and we've got another one open right now, which I'll be telling you more about towards the end of the webinar, so do stick around to hear more about that. So each grant, we have 5 winners, and they each get a 1-year Gorilla Research Standard subscription, which gives you full access to all of the Gorilla tools, including our premium tools. We also give you $300 cash from us for any extras you need, maybe to put towards participant fees. And then we often also partner with a participant recruitment company who typically contribute about $300 as well in research credit. So we've worked with Cloud Research and Prolific in some of our grants over the last year, which has helped us support kind of every aspect of your study. We also offer each winner a study mapping session with a research specialist from our team to help you get started building your task. So that would be like a one-to-one call where you can talk through and start building. And then we're on hand for support throughout the rest of your study as well. This is, I've just pulled out from the winners that we've had over the last year. This is some of the research areas that they are working in. As you can see, hugely varied. It's always so cool reading through the applications and seeing the huge range of things that people are interested in doing with Gorilla. So yeah, whatever your research area, there'll be a grant you can apply for with us. We also give our winners, this is most of their faces down in the corner here, the opportunity to take part in our own Gorilla Presents webinar series, where we invite researchers to share their research with our community. We've actually had 2 previous winners share their research in a webinar with us in the last few months. One of those is a gamified working memory task, and the other is a multiplayer task looking at collaborative learning in older adults. They're both really interesting and worth a watch. I think my colleague Holly is going to put the links to those in the chat. So yeah, definitely would recommend checking them out if you're interested. And then of course, we also have 2 winners, Yoe and Frederica, who are with us today, and you'll be hearing from them about their research and how they applied for the Gorilla grants in just a second. So what's coming next? Grants in 2025. We're planning to expand them, run more of them, and run a bigger variety of grants. So there's kind of 3 ways that we think we can run more targeted grant schemes. The first is by focusing on a specific Gorilla tool. So we have, these are our 3 kind of premium tools in Gorilla, and we've just closed a grant with our multiplayer tool, which lets you run a study with multiple participants online at the same time. They can like see each other's screens, they can interact through text and video. And if you want to see the winners for that, we've got a link to our LinkedIn post, I think, with yeah, a bit about what they're going to be up to. And then we also have a shop builder for kind of e-commerce behavioral economics research, and a game builder, which just lets you, yeah, gamify your tasks. I think Joe will be showing you a little bit more about those later. We also have focused grants based on kind of like who you are. So we're interested in running a teaching methods grant to support lecturers in kind of giving their students access to Gorilla and getting them started running real research kind of early on in their degrees, careers. And then we also are interested in supporting early career researchers and PhD students. And then the third type of more targeted grant we can run is just focusing on a specific research area and kind of building a community of people who are doing online research using Gorilla in that area. So we know we have a lot of language researchers on Gorilla, a lot of memory researchers, attention decision making, and yeah, obviously there's so many options for this one. So yeah, we're just planning our 2025 grants out now. So what would be really, really useful for us to do that is to hear from you guys which of these would be interesting to you, which of these you might apply for, which of these you have colleagues who you think would be interested in. So I think we've got a poll for you to just like, yeah, ask you. Yes, we do, perfect. What you'd like to see future grants focus on. These are some ideas, but don't feel you have to stick to them. Yeah, super interested to hear your ideas.
Yeah.
And
we've got 112 people on the call, so I would love to see 112 ideas of what would be the perfect grant for you. You don't know. If you don't write it in, it definitely won't. It might not come true. If you do write it in, there's a chance that it will come true and that we'll do the exact grant scheme that you want. So this is my Christmas present to you. Type in what you'd like us to have a future grant focused on.
Perfect. Yep, what Joe said, 112 would be incredible. Cool. So while you do that, I'll just introduce. So we've got Yoeli and Federica with us on the call today. Yue is a PhD student at Purdue University. Her dissertation research focuses on English language production using a picture-based elicitation methodology implemented on Gorilla. And then Federica, I will introduce in a second, I think, and let you speak first, if that's okay. But yeah, keep filling out the poll. Thank you very much, everyone who's done that so far. I will stop sharing. Are you okay to share your slides?
Yeah, sure. Second. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my slides. Okay, yeah, so quick hi, hello everyone. Thank you all so much for joining today. So I'm really excited to be here with all of you and share my experience with the Gorilla Grant. My name is Yue. I'm a PhD candidate in linguistics department at Purdue University. So it's such a pleasure to have this opportunity to connect with you all over Zoom, of course, and talk about how Gorilla Grant has supported my research journey. So today my talk will be divided into three little sections. So first of all, I will walk you through briefly about my project and the project that I used to apply for Gorilla Grant last year. And second, I will briefly share my experience, how Gorilla Grant has helped me through my research journey in the past year, essentially. And the last part, I'll just share some small tips that I learned from here or there, also in the process of writing the grant, writing the application. So first part, the project introduction. So as a linguistic researcher, I'm very interested in a human language structure called the object relative clause, or ORC for short. So here's giving you an example. So the baby that the woman carries is one of the object relative clause we called ORC, that is in active structure. So in this sentence, the baby is what we call the head noun, is the thing that we are talking about. Meanwhile, the woman here is the agent noun, is the one that is performing the action. So ORCs like these are a key focus in my research because they reveal so much about how we understand, how we produce language. So in these object relative clauses, both the head noun and the agent noun can vary in animacy, meaning that they can either be animate or being inanimate. For animate, we means that things that are entity that are considered to be alive. So when it comes to inanimate entity, meaning that the entity that doesn't have life. One interesting finding about this structure in the research is how their construction changes depending on the animacy status of the nouns involved. So early research shows that when both the head noun and the agent noun are animate, people are more likely to produce a passive structure, such as the baby that's carried by the woman, so which is a passive structure in English ORC structure. On the other hand, though, when the head noun is inanimate, while the agent noun being animate, people tend to use the active structure more often than they do in the other cases. So like the box that a woman carries. So interestingly, when the head noun is animate and the agent is inanimate, there's only one study that looked into this phenomenon and found that people also prefer a passive structure, similar to the situation when both the nouns and head noun are animate. So, but currently, according to our knowledge, no study has been done with the last animacy status configuration. This gap kind of got me thinking, what happened in these underexplored conditions? How do people construct and how do people produce their language specifically? Which structure do they favor? Do they lean towards the passive structure or do they prefer the active ones? So that's kind of got me interested in this specific topic. To address these questions, we designed a picture-based elicitation task using built into Gorilla's Text Builder 2, which is comes in very handy and help us kind of build every details into kind of map our visions into practice in every single detail. So in this task, we presented our participants with customized created pictures and asked them some targeted questions. So this way we get to elicit people's production on relative clause while measuring two key outcomes, the production accuracy and their structure choice. So other than that, we also have a implemented an offline decision task, which to complement our production task. So this is a comprehension task in our research. So in this task, people listened to an audio description and decided whether it matches the item got highlighted in the picture. So this again was built into Gorilla's Text Builder 2. So this allowed us to measure two key aspects with the questions that we are interested in. One is their comprehension accuracy, the accuracy in terms of pressing F or J button on the screen on the keyboard, and then the time it took them to make their decision. So response time. Other than that, participants also completed 3 additional tasks. First, a Lextel task to measure their general English proficiency. Second, a backward digit span task to measure their working memory span. Finally, they fill out a language questionnaire regarding their language background, which we created using Gorilla Questionnaire Builder 2. So a quick snapshot of our findings. So in these conditions where both the Hanao and anime agent are being anime, we found results that consistent with prior studies where people seems to prefer the passive structure. Whereas in the other 2 conditions, at least one of the mechanisms got triggered, people still prefer or choose to say a lot of passive structure in their production. Whereas in the second condition where none of the mechanisms were activated, therefore meaning that people are lacking a solid impetus for choosing a passive structure. Therefore, people ended up with the least preference for passive structure. So that is a prelim result of our pilot data. So the data collection for my dissertation study is still ongoing, and we're very excited to see whether the ultimate findings will align with previous studies or reveal something new. So that was an overview of our project supported by Gorilla Grant. With the data we've collected, we've been actively sharing our findings with the research community, contributing to the ongoing conversations in this field over the world. So we have been incredibly fortunate to share our Gorilla Grant supported research with colleagues at prestigious conference around the world in the past few months. So earlier this year in June, we shared the data at the International Workshop on Language Production in Marseille, France, also at the Purdue Linguistics Symposium here at Purdue, and at the Conference on the Theory and Practice of Bilingualism in Zhuhai, China. So thanks to the continuous support of the Gorilla Grant, we've been able to recruit participants efficiently, and with the added benefit of prolific credits, moving our dissertation study experiments online has become possible. So this is a really important component of our study. This has been a game changer for our research, to be honest, making the data collection procedure very efficient and approachable. So finally, I'd like to share some practical tips for writing a successful grant application. So lessons that I've learned throughout the process with guidance from my advisors, Dr. Ling Francis, who is also here today, I believe, and colleagues in my department. So I believe these insights have been incredibly helpful to me, and I hope that they can be useful to you as well. So in my experience, you wanted to address 2 questions clearly in your application. First one is, what is your research goal? And if you have a research method, you wanted to highlight that part. So you wanted to indicate who you are clearly and what is your research focus and objectives. So also providing a brief overview of the participant task in your experiment. So what will actually the participant be seeing or doing? If you already have a solid method, make sure you kind of mention that part in your application. So that's what we did. We provide a walkthrough of the methods that we are going to provide our participants, and kind of make sure that the method is addressed clearly in the application. Also, that for the second part, you wanted to address why you choose Gorilla Grant and why you think that it's going to help support your research. So in my case, I talk about how Gorilla Grant is going to help me ensure my funding for participant composition, which is always a key component of conducting human, especially linguistic research, psycholinguistic research. You need money to pay your participants, of course. And also I talk about how Gorilla Grant is going to help me cover the data collection along the way that cost on the research platforms. Also, I talked about how using Gorilla Grant can help me do online data collection efficiently. So, but I was just thinking that if your study involves using Gorilla's game builder or eye tracking module, which are newly launched, I believe. So I think it's going to be a good idea to highlight that part in your application, because kind of including these cutting edge tools and with the newly built modules that Gorilla offers to us, it's going to highlight the advantage of your study. So just some small tips lastly. So I know that we have some graduate students in the room today who are just like me, may not have a lot of experience writing a grant application before. So I was fortunate to be awarded with the Gorilla Grant in my third year of my PhD here at Purdue for my prelim study project. So I highly recommend everybody to give it a try if you have a project ongoing. And the Gorilla team has been very helpful in terms of supporting researchers in any stage of their career, specifically, especially those in the early stages who need funding to collect data. So definitely think of this as an opportunity instead of a competition. I know it can get competitive very easily, but this is a great opportunity to get your research out there and get your support if you need it. So just a couple of small tips that I learned from people. You wanted to like and believe in the value of your project. So do not kind of overthink about whether you think your project's worth it or not. Just give it a go, give it a try. So believe in your project. Also seek for advice from prior more experienced researchers who are just like, for example, your advisors. So if you are current graduate students. Lastly, I just want to say, just go for it. The only way to learn and to improve is trying. So trying doesn't hurt. You can always get feedbacks from other people. So you always have a chance if you try. Okay, so that'll be all with my sharing today. Thank you so much for listening and good luck with this year's application. So if you have any questions, I'll be here to answer them. Thanks.
Amazing. That was so interesting. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing both your research and some really useful tips. For anyone interested in applying, we've got the Q&A down at the bottom. So if you have any questions about anyone who's speaking today, put that in and we'll have a kind of longer Q&A session at the end. Amazing. Thank you so much. So next up, we've got Federica, who is a PhD candidate in cognitive neuroscience at MIT Lucca. Her research explores the intersection of decision-making, reasoning, and social media, and she's looking at whether cognitive biases become even stronger in the world of social media. So are you ready to share your slides?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Claire. Let me share the screen now. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting. So I will start just with a few information about myself. As Claire said, I'm in the last year of my PhD in neuroscience, but I am a behavioral scientist. That's what I studied. My last degree was in social psychology. And my main interests are what is officially called behavioral economics, decision making, and so on. But an important information about myself is that when I was 16, Facebook happened. And it happened in a moment of my life that I was very curious. And I was lucky enough to be an adult when I could study Facebook. So not only am I a heavy social media user, but also after reading this paper, highly suggested paper, I realized that as a behavioral scientist, I could do something about the possible bad outcomes of heavy social media use, and I could improve how we make use of these tools. Why is this relevant? Because social media represents a very peculiar environment. Our cognition was not built to deal with such amount of information. These guys, Herbert Simon, I saw that many of you are from behavioral economics, so for sure you know him. Even before social media, he said that when our cognition is challenged with so many stimuli, it doesn't work properly, as efficient as it should. So not only our cognition is overwhelmed, but also we are taking a lot of decisions. And I refer to like shopping, doing the groceries online, buying a newspaper. It used to be a decision that it took time, but now it's just one click. So not only we are more prone to use mental shortcuts, and therefore we are more prone to cognitive biases, but we also take a lot of decisions. And that's why my main research question is, do social media enhance this effect of cognitive biases? So cognitive biases, huge topic, cannot focus on all of them. I decided first to focus on one, which is this misperception that we sometimes have about our own knowledge, because there is some interesting evidence that people who are heavy social media users tend to think that they know a lot, but they actually don't. Because you feel that important news will eventually find you, which is also what I do, to be honest. I will be very honest with you today. So you think, okay, I'm informed, I don't need to look for other information. And there are also some, these are correlational studies. They correlate social media use and this misperception, but there aren't many experimental attempts to test this claim. And that's what I tried to do with my advisors. So we collected pre and post measures. The participants were exposed to a fake social media environment. All this, I mean, there are only 2 studies, experimental studies, but they are all full between studies. So we introduced this pre and post test. There were different kind of news. I'm not going into the details. We are writing the paper. I should have been writing the paper. We are at the end, we got mixed results. But as you know, every time you do an experiment, there are so many other questions coming up, right? And that's why we wanted to build on this protocol, but expand with the new measures and different content. And that's exactly when I applied for the Gorilla grant. I wanted to give you this overview because maybe among you there are some people interested in doing research on social media. These are basically the options that you have. You can code your own platform. Yeah, maybe you're a genius of coding. I am not. I already have to pay for data analysis, so I feel I do my part. Also, the learning curve is very steep. Of course, it has its pros because you can adjust to your taste. You can do screenshots or embedding posts from existing social media, but it's very easy to do, but it's very heavy to combine with survey platforms. And also you're giving your stimuli to another platform, which is a private company, a social media, and everything can happen on social media. You know, whenever you post something there, it's there. There are other online tools. The one that I used, very nice. You saw the screenshot, naturalistic, but it was very tough. My advisor had put it on the server, asking help for a computer scientist. And again, let me be honest, most of the time, we PhD students are left alone in our research. So having a tool that allows you to be independent, I think it's priceless because you don't need to ask for help and you can focus on what is important in research. Also, all these tools you can use them. If you want to use them, you have to forget anything about collecting data about interactive behaviors. It's just, surveys and stimuli. You cannot do more than that. But let me show you the Gorilla social media component. I'm very enthusiastic about it. That's why this slide is very messy, because it's very easy to build. You learn it like half a morning to deal with that. It's you can customize everything because it's basically just a spreadsheet where you write down all the components of your social media posts. This is what participants see, so they can react, they can click repost, and they can even write a comment, and the data will be stored in your CSV at the end of the study. Perfect. This is what you look in your builder. So these are all, you can like the number of laughs, the number of reactions, then you can adjust everything, literally everything, is super intuitive to use. So why you should apply for the grant? As a very young researcher's perspective, so for social media research, it's the best option for sure, because it's easy to implement, so you're independent, you don't waste too much time. Of course, learning how to code HTML, CSS, it's a good investment. But again, also, I don't want to be a computer scientist. I like psychology, so I'd rather focus on something else. Also, it's pretty, and it matters because you don't want to show your participant very ruined pictures, right? It's ugly. And also it's on all-in-one platform. So you have the stimuli, you can build a survey, and the data collection is all in one platform. So you don't need to merge or connect different websites. Also, you've got nothing to lose. Applying for the grant is super quick, so the cost-utility ratio is perfect. Literally, you got nothing to lose. Just try. Worst case scenario, you spend 2 hours of your life. Also, if you win the grant, it will be much easier to have people join you in the research. So I got the grant in a critical period of my PhD because I'm in the last stages. So I couldn't like put all my brain in the research, but I had some funds from the Gorilla Grant. So I reached out to Nino. She's an assistant professor at Maastricht University. And yeah, she joined to do the theoretical part. And we applied for an extra fund. And I see that when they realize that some other people trust your project, they might trust it also. At least this is what happened to us. So we also got extra funds from an external institution. How you should apply for the grant? I'm super young in the field, so I'm not in the position to give you suggestions, but I will just let you know what I think. So build on existing research. Because there's always something that you can add to what is already done. There are no perfect experiments, so improving the field you want to study is always a good idea. Also, try to be clear in the language. I like to be simple in my language. Maybe it's because I'm not a native English speaker, but I always go back to the beginning. So what is my dependent variable? What is the independent variable? And if it's the first time for you to write a proposal, I suggest to have a look at OSF, Open Science Framework, pre-registration forms, because it's they guide you through the structure of a project proposal, basically. So filling up the form helps you in understanding what is relevant to be written in a project proposal. And again, you need to help the reader to understand your vision, because I'm sure that your brains are full of ideas, very good ideas. You just need to deliver the core idea of yours, because if you have a clear idea of what you want to do, the details might change, but at least you have the strength to persuade someone to invest in your project. Everything on my side. Thank you for listening. If you want to reach out, this is my email, but you can also find me on LinkedIn and so on. Thank you.
Wow. Yue and Frederica, both of your talks were absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. It's such a delight. I can't tell you, it's such a delight to hear from young researchers like yourselves, the research that we've managed to unlock, what we've made possible for you, and where this will help you take your research. This is why I got into this. Obviously, at the beginning, I was sad that behavioral scientists like you were locked away in the lab and having to learn to code, which none of us particularly well. Few of us like. I'm sure the rest of them do. And you're great too. That's fine. But allowing you to do the research that you really want, to take it online, take it to scale, take it around the world. UA, how wonderful to see all the lovely places that you have presented your research. Thank you so much for the advice on how to fill out an application form to everybody who's on the call with us here today. That's super helpful. I think it is one of those things, isn't it, that you can feel really intimidated about trying. But of course, if you don't try, you can't win. And you can't succeed. And what I always like to remind myself when I'm scared of trying is that I'll either succeed or I'll learn something valuable from the experience. I think there's a lovely line from somebody along the lines of, when you don't get what you want, what you get is experience, which I think is quite nice. So what I want to do now is take a little moment to say a little bit more about Gorilla and what's possible in Gorilla, so that all of you people on the webinar today can start to dream into the possibilities. I think you'll already have started to have dreams of what's possible from having seen Yue and Frederica's research, but I want to give you some more things to think about as well. I'm going to share my slides now, I hope. Here you go. So I've got two 90-second videos, which I'm just going to show you now. So with Gorilla, what we're really talking about here is lab quality experiments online. So what we have is our core tool, the task builder. 90% of users use our task builder. You can have any type of stimuli, any type of response. You've got a what you see is what you get interface. You add the components you want, you position them on the screen, and then you list out in this sort of spreadsheet all of the stimuli, and then you set up the randomization. You can have really complicated randomization rules. That's a simple randomization rule there. And this allows you to create that stimulus response task and get those accurate reaction times. Then we have our questionnaire builder. Nothing really fancy here, but it does like there are lots of questionnaire builders, but it does all the fancy stuff that you would need. So you can branch to different screens, you can build in scoring, you can have sliders and Likert scales and drop downs, you can randomize the order of the questions, you can randomize the order of the answers, and of course you can create scales and subscales that can be fed through to tasks. And then we have the experiment builder, which is where you stick your whole protocol together. So here we're going from a questionnaire in green, and then all the participants go to this randomizer, and they're being randomized into two conditions of one task before reaching the end of the experiment. So this allows you to set up quite complicated experimental designs without writing a single line of code. I think the most complicated experiment tree I've seen to date had something like 80 nodes in it with randomization, stratification, crossover designs. It was really sophisticated, but it allowed the research group to answer all of the questions that they needed. Then we have some more sort of esoteric and advanced features. Oh no, I was going to tell you about this first. And then I'll tell you about the advanced features. So what do 1 million participants tell us about online research? This was a paper that I wrote with my co-authors earlier this year, I think. So we can learn a little bit about sample size. Most people using Gorilla have a sample size of between 100 to 500 participants. And if you think about what's possible in the lab and how long that would take you to collect data, you quickly realize, often less than 100, you quickly realize that by taking your research online, you make it possible to answer questions that would be impossible to answer in the lab because you just wouldn't have the power for it. And then the other one is the study length. The median study length for studies run on Gorilla is about 18 minutes. So it's longer than surveys. Typically, if you're putting a survey online, study lengths are closer to sort of 7 to 8 minutes. When you're working with participants and you need to get them to do a response task, then a study length of about 18 minutes is achievable. 15 minutes is better. Sort of 12 to 18 is probably the best, but the median that we see from our data is 18 minutes. What's really exciting is that longer studies produce the same proportion of complete participants. So you can go shorter, you can go longer. It doesn't tend to increase attrition. And then the third thing is completion rates, average completion rates. Online, when a participant comes into your lab, they do complete your study. You get very high completion rates, or sometimes you get very low data quality because it's very clear the participant isn't enjoying it and wants to leave. But online, of course, if a participant isn't enjoying your task, they can just jump out and leave. So you do tend to have more what we call attrition, but you still get really high completion rates. This is our sort of metadata. If you look at it by recruitment policy, so this is where people are recruiting their data, I think to some extent it's this central one, which is the most exciting. When people are putting their study links onto social media for participants to take part for free, so they're not paying them anything, 50%, over 50% of participants complete the study, which is really cool, right? You don't have to go to a recruitment platform to get high quality data. Recruitment services, you tend to get closer to 76%. And then if you're doing recruitment using one of our ID policies, which allows you to upload a list of participants who've said they want to take part and then you email it out to them, you get even higher completion rates. And then by role, what we tend to see is a sort of similar pattern is that students who are typically using the social media recruitment have lower recruitment rates, whereas PhD students who put an awful lot of work into their study design and making them enjoyable tend to have the highest completion rates. I also wanted to mention some of the benefits of online research. The speed, one of the things we often hear from researchers is that they switch to using Gorilla and save themselves so much time. One researcher was telling me that the typical story is that PhD students finish their PhD, but then it takes them an extra year to write up, and they are they've sort of technically out of their 3-year program, but haven't yet moved on to something else. And she was like, no, I managed to run all my 5 studies, write them all up, finish my dissertation, and write a publication all within my 3 years. So speed is really important, in particular for PhD students. The scale. You can answer different research questions when you can reach more participants. If you can collect data from 500 participants in a lunch break or from 1,000 participants in a day, you can just answer fundamentally different questions. And that's really exciting too. And then the reach into people's homes. There are things we don't know because we haven't managed to access the population. But when you can reach into people's homes and reach children, people who are elderly, clinical populations, people who have weird and interesting hobbies, you can do this precision research that otherwise wouldn't be possible. Now I want to show you also some of the advanced features that are available in Gorilla. So we have eye tracking available with the eyes, mouse tracking available with the mouse. This is actually a tool called Mouse View, which is eye tracking without the eyes. You have a little oculus around your mouse so that people can't see the whole picture. You can do drawing tasks where you can get people to annotate an image. You can do the social media simulations. We've seen this earlier from Frederica. You can build navigation simulations by essentially linking photos together, seeing how people navigate around a space and make decisions. You can build UX simulations. So here we were simulating our website and getting every single click that somebody can make through the simulation, seeing how they navigate our site and digest the information. This is our game builder. I love our game builder. It allows you to turn reaction time tasks and make them fun and enjoyable to play. And this is our multiplayer tool. You have text chat and video chat and drag and drop all enabled in there. And then this is our shopping simulator, where you upload all your products, the prices, the packaging, and more. And this allows you to answer questions about purchasing behavior. It's been used in alcohol and tobacco related research, also like food and appetite related research, but also for more consumer decision making. I rather like this quote from Rachel Theodore: if you can dream it, Gorilla can build it. Finally, I just wanted to show you this chart just to go back to this axis where we have of easy to use up here and really powerful over here. There are online survey tools, which are of course easy to use, but not very powerful. And then going through online task builders, lab coding, and then online coding libraries, which are super powerful, but really not easy to use. And we believe Gorilla is all the way up here as being both hugely powerful and really easy to use. And I hope that Frederica and Yue have given you a sense that it's not just us that are saying this. They think that's true too. So why choose Gorilla? As I said, it's really powerful, it's really easy to use, but it's also really, really well supported. We've got an amazing support team, most of them behavioral scientists. One of the things that made me sad when I was a researcher back at university was the number of people going, I just feel so lost and alone. I feel like I'm here on the frontier of my research. It's quite a lonely place being at the frontier of your research, but if you're trying to create something yourself and nobody else cares about it being created, you can often feel quite lost and stuck and don't know what to do next. Our support team will always get you unstuck. If you get in touch and say, I'm trying to create a study that does this, what do I need to do? How do I need to do it? It will be Megan, Katie, or Katrina, possibly Claudia, maybe Jamie, Johanna as well, will respond usually within 48 hours, often within 24 hours, and will get you completely unstuck and back on track. They really are an amazing team. I also wanted to mention a little bit about open science. I know a lot of people care about reproducibility and open science. We have this cool element of Gorilla, which is called open materials. It's an open access repository where people can publish their research. So when you're at that write-up stage, you can publish all of your materials to Gorilla Open Materials and link it to your paper, and then you can put a link to your materials inside your paper. So then when somebody is reading your paper, they can click on that link. They can preview your protocol. They can also clone your protocol, and that helps them run a replication of your study, and it makes it more likely that they'll cite you. So one little tip for you is think about embracing open science. Think about sharing your materials to Gorilla Open Materials and including that link in your eventual write-up, because it will help people understand what you've done and want to run a replication of your study or extend it even further. Some gorilla in numbers. I know many of us are quantitative people on this call. We like numbers. We're scientists. Some hard evidence. So with Gorilla, we've tested over 3 million participants. There are over we launched in 2016, and we've been cited in over 2,000 papers. We're used at over 1,000 universities globally. We have 17 team members, 11 of whom are behavioral scientists, and over 2,000 open materials in Gorilla Open Materials. And over 300 experiments are launched every single week. So that's a lot of experiments being run online. So that's it from me. Now what I want to do is to hand you over to Claire, who is going to tell you about our next grant scheme, who it's for, and what we're going to be doing with it, and how to fill out a Stellar application as well. So Claire, over to you.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. Let me get my slides back up. Yeah. Is that looking all right? Oh, hang on. Okay. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much, Joe, and a huge thank you to you and Frederica as well. So our grants open right now. You can visit our grants website, which I think has already been in the chat, but Holly will put it in again for you if you've missed it. And you just go on the website and enter your email address, and then you'll receive an email from us with a link to the application form, which I'll talk you through in a second. So the 5 winners of this grant will receive a Gorilla Research standard subscription plus $300 cash. And for this grant, it's kind of an open call. There's no criteria except that you can't already be part of a Gorilla subscription, just because we want to support kind of people who otherwise wouldn't have had the chance to take their research online. But yeah, any research area, any researcher can apply. So the timeline for this grant, applications opened on Monday. They'll be open until end of day, Sunday, December 8th. And then we're going to be reviewing all the applications kind of end of December, start of January, and we're hoping to announce the winners around January 20th, kind of mid-January, and we'll email you to let you know the outcome of your application, whether you win or lose. So yeah. So on the grant application form, there are kind of 3 main bits. The main part that we're looking at is your research proposal. You and Frederica have already given some great tips for what to include on that, but I'll just say briefly, you should include information on your research aims and background and the design you plan to use for building your study in Gorilla. We encourage in-text citations, but you don't need to do like a full reference list, that's fine. The other main part is 150 words on how the grant will support you, and then just some kind of details on you, your name, email, university or organization. And then once we've got all the applications in, we review them. We review just the 500 words and the 150 words, so without kind of looking at your name. And we are looking for 3 main things in the research proposal that we score on. So the first one is motivation. We're looking to see that you have kind of based your study off existing literature and that you're addressing a gap in the literature. We're looking to see that your task is feasible to create in Gorilla, so you've kind of had a look at our tools. And we're also ideally looking for something that kind of uses our tools in a creative way. So yeah, as Yuri was saying, if you're using something like Game Builder or eye tracking, let us know. We're just kind of looking for something that goes beyond a survey and makes full use of our tool set. And then thirdly, we're looking for impact, so research findings that are making a demonstrable contribution to the behavioral sciences. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So you can register for our grants right now. We'd recommend signing up to Gorilla as well it will help you write a good quality application if you've had a chance to kind of, obviously you don't need to build most of it, but just kind of try out the Gorilla tools and see what's possible. And we also have an onboarding webinar that will give you an overview of everything in Gorilla and how to use all of our support resources as well. And yeah, that's everything. If you have any questions either about Yui or Frederica's research or about Gorilla and the grant scheme, keep putting them in the Q&A. I think we'll have a few minutes to go through that now.
Excellent. Well done, everyone. Well done, Claire, for presenting that so succinctly. I will open up the Q&A and see if there are any questions. Jess Maisley, our department already has a subscription to Gorilla. So for this particular grant scheme, we're not recommending people who are already on a subscription apply. There will be other applications next year for under either very specific research areas, which you will be welcome to apply for. But this probably isn't the best fit for you. Do you health with online methodology for the research? Can you do health research online? I think you can absolutely do health research online. Holly, could you share our publications page into the chat? Probably the best thing to do, is to search for like health related research or some specific keywords that you're interested in. I've seen people do research on weight loss maintenance, depression, anxiety. What else have we seen? Claire, you've probably seen quite a few as well. I think phobias. Is the Gorilla Grant mainly for PhD students or is it for researchers at all career stage? This one is open. It's for researchers at all career stages. So I think typically we like to support younger researchers, but this one, Claire, I'm not sure I know. Is this one open to
this
everyone?
is open to everyone. One of the ones we ran earlier in the year was specifically aimed at early career researchers, but this one is anyone.
This one's for everyone. PI, everyone. I'm wondering how Gorilla connects to the eye tracking experiment. Does Gorilla have a device tracking for movement? How well is the precision of the data? That's a really excellent question about the eye tracking. So it uses a webcam. You don't get as great quality data as you would if you had specific hardware installed, but you are able to do some paradigms. So you can very easily get four areas of interest and track those. It's better with horizontal this way, gradations. So it could do 4 strips, probably quite easy. So you might even be able to get 8 zones and then top and bottom. Claire, we did an eye tracking webinar very recently. Could you dig out the link for that and share it into the chat? And then if you're interested in eye tracking, what I'd recommend is watching that webinar first, getting a sense of what's possible, and that can inform your application. Can you please kindly explain more about behavioral science? So I think there's a it's quite a general term that can mean quite nearly anything to anybody. So that's sort of a slight problem with the term behavioral science. But a number of different disciplines all come together to study the science of human behavior, and they can apply it in many different places. So behavioral economists, experimental psychologists, sociologists are sort of all looking at human behavior through a slightly different lens. And all of them have different ways of approaching behavioral science. And then there are now specific behavioral science courses, which are very much about understanding how people behave in a specific context and how we can change the architecture of that environment to help them achieve their ends. So it's a sort of more nebulous term to look at how to change human behavior in a wide range of contexts. Does the 500 words include references? Claire, over to you.
But all we're looking to see in terms of references is like at least 1 or 2 in-text citations, so it should only be using up a few words.
We just want to be able to evaluate whether there is a theoretical underpinning to your research question. Faye, about Gorilla eye tracking, would integrating non-webcam external eye trackers into your RSL be something you'd consider? It's quite tricky. It's something we are looking into. We may have more news on this next year. Are grants available every year? I'm not doing my degree now, but I'm getting my thoughts together for potentially. Yes, I can't promise it at the moment. I've approved budget with Claire for the grants for next year. But I would imagine we'd continue. It's something we've done for the last 5 years, and I can't imagine us stopping. Are your previous webinars available on your website, or do I have to register? Claire, is there a link to our previous Gorilla Presents
Yeah, I can share a link to previous Gorilla
Fab.
Presents. We've also been running kind of a separate webinar series with Sage, which I don't know if Danielle can dig
Yeah.
out the link for. But
Yeah,
yeah, Gorilla Presents
I'll
all on our
pop that
website.
link. Thanks,
Fab.
Claire.
And then Mohammed asks, how can we be sure that our reaction times are good enough? We have a whole paper on it. Claire, could you put out the paper on the accuracy of online research tools? To sort of more specifically answer your question, Mohammed, up until about 2015, it wasn't possible to get good enough reaction times out of the browsers, but there was a big update to all of the browsers in about 2015, which gave you better access to the clock speed. All of the way our studies work is they're all asynchronous. So we're downloading the stimuli from the server asynchronously and storing them in a local cache. And so actually all of the timing is happening locally, and computers are extremely powerful and we're able to do this fine. Then we're storing the data of your participants' behavior and loading that back up asynchronously. So we can even tolerate small amounts of the internet connectivity dropping in and dropping out. But hopefully, maybe go and have a look at our publications list as well. As I said, with over 3 million participants tested and over 2,000 citations, there is a huge body of evidence that our reaction times are good enough to be able to answer a very wide range of research questions. Who is in the selection panel? Claire, I'll leave that one to you.
It's just members of our team here at Gorilla. Everyone who is involved in reviewing has at least a psychology degree. To be honest, it's more or less people depending on how many applications we get for each grant. But yeah, members of our team with a psychology background.
And then Kulud says, I currently have a Gorilla subscription, but it's paid for individually. Why can't I apply for this grant? This grant is specifically for people who don't have a subscription at the moment. If there will be grants available in the future. So I'm sorry that you miss out this time, but it's nice to be able to allow people who are discovering Gorilla for the first time to succeed. Sorry about that. Every now and again we get unlucky and there are things that aren't available to us. Could I do the experimental studies, compare different teaching methods of argumentative writing? Does this belong in the behavioral research? It sounds like it could be an element of linguistics or comparative language. I think that could very well, or psycholinguistics even, I could very well fit into the context of behavioral research. You're understanding how a person thinks, feels, and behaves on their own or in groups. In this case, you're trying to understand how writing conveys emotion and how it elicits an emotional response in the person reading it. So I think that firmly sits within behavioral research. So yeah, good luck.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joe, for fielding all our questions. And thank you to the audience who are still here. Thank you for being so engaged and asking all the questions. It was lovely. Thank you all for joining us today. And thank you especially to our guests, Gorilla and Federica Yue, for joining us and presenting on their research. It's great. Thank you so much. We'll be sending the recording in the next week or so. I think Claire will be spearheading that. So look out for the recording. Have a great evening, afternoon, day, wherever you are. Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Danielle. That was
Bye.
great.
Thanks, Joe. Bye, everyone.
Bye.